Yeah, we got rain.
We got like a quarter of an inch.
You got a quarter of an inch.
It rained pretty
I
hard.
think we had more than that
A
even.
couple, 2-3 times today.
Yeah, it was pouring at our place here this afternoon.
And I think you're going to get her again here tonight.
Yeah.
Judging by the radar. So
Well, it looks like the whole next week is going to be wet,
I
eh?
know. Spraying season. The wind will not stop blowing. It will not
And it's not
stop
going
raining.
to stop raining, eh?
It's just unbelievable how that works.
Yeah. Perfect. 3 people on already. Oh, Kristen's on. Perfect. Good evening. Good evening.
How does it look? How does it sound? Is there a ton of lagging or a ton of whatever? Let us know.
There's going to be some creaking noises here this evening.
I know.
It's so windy, right?
I think the wind even affects the signal too sometimes.
45-kilometer-an-hour winds. So.
It's gusting pretty good, yeah. So
4 folks on. What are we talking about tonight?
tonight, pink and blue jobs.
Pink
Kind of
and blue
excited
jobs.
about it.
Yeah, we're going to crack that nutshell open.
So we do our little pre-evening planning, and it was interesting to see what Stan had come up with, what I had come up with, kind of 2 different avenues of the topic of pink and blue jobs.
Yeah, different perception on the subject. It's
Yeah,
kind of interesting, right?
Which side we were going to cover, but it's going to be good because
We'll either piss some people off or make some new friends, or
I think someone was
Somewhere
going
in
to
the
do
middle.
that, right? Someone's going to get
yeah.
irritated. I know the thing I put on TikTok, it irritated the females that heard it around the house. So
I mean, you were
of
targeting to push some buttons on that one.
of course you have to do that, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, you know what? Sometimes you have to say something extraordinary to get people talking about stuff, right?
well, yeah, they actually they quieted down and listened, then rolled their eyes
Yeah.
pretty heavily.
There you go. I got a few high rolls today too for different reasons. Wife wouldn't hold my hand for like 2 hours today. She was having none of my nonsense. So
Yeah.
you know. So we got Kristen says audio's good, perfect. That's awesome. How are you gents doing tonight? I'm doing fantastic.
Yeah, it's good.
Never
it's
felt
good.
better.
I got caught up on my bags finally, so I've actually been able to do some yard work. I'm getting some dirt put into that big shed. I'm getting
Nice.
life is better.
Yeah.
And not everything's broken for once. Got an old red truck going.
That's a rarity. You get the pigeon shit scraped off of it.
Took the paint off, but
You took the paint off.
well, where under the shit it was.
Like, what are they eating? Caustic soda?
It was a poor man's paint job, so it is what it is.
So you can do a poor man's patch job.
I'll do a poor man's patch job. Yeah.
Roll it right on.
What a mint truck that thing.
Oh,
Like,
isn't it?
Just runs like a top. Runs better than our actual tandem that we use. So
Oh, good.
that's going to be in some upcoming videos. I'm going to take that, get some dirt, get some sand, get some whatever.
Nice.
Because yeah, it was funny when she went to. It
So
hasn't
you're
been.
gonna haul dirt with that? Like
Oh,
it's
yeah.
a gravel truck.
Yeah, it is. It's got that box.
That's awesome.
I didn't even upload that video. That box is like a multi-purpose box. It was that truck came from Southern Alberta hauling sugar beets, so the whole one side
Oh,
folds
wow.
down,
Yeah.
and then it can dump that way, and then it's got a gravel box, so it can dump with the back, and then it's got a grain chute, so you can haul grain with it.
It's like a Swiss Army knife.
It is.
It's even the right color.
It is. It's kind of and yeah, the new engine is the repaired engine. Does it smoke anymore?
Yeah.
It smells like French fries for some odd reason when it's running. So-
Pistons have rings in them.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
They do. It was a total win. And all the parts available, because I think that's about a 71. And
Oh, good.
amazing.
It's
61.
No,
yeah.
it's gonna be 61
61.
makes more sense. Yeah.
But amazing. Like all the parts were available. So cool.
No, like now.
Yeah, now
We went to look at a vehicle, and we get
I
they say
roll
we get half your options. High roller, he says. No, because we don't have a vehicle. We went to look at them. We can look through the window. How much is that you've gone in the window? $82,000. Holy shit! But yeah, they said some of the options you're 2 years out for getting them. So not going to happen. I mean, it'll happen, but it's just not today by any means. So,
2 years out, eh?
yeah.
Yeah, I seen a 2020 1-ton dually for 102,000, 73,000 clicks on her.
Yeah.
And it was blowout sale today, 99,500.
Well, and that was the funny thing when we went looking, because the ones on the lot, you would just pay the sticker price, right? So anywhere from 80,000 to 95,000, depending on what options you want. But the used ones, because you can drive that away today, the used ones with 150,000 K on it or more are 91,000 plus. Like they're starting at 91 grand.
Aren't we blessed?
Right? Isn't that something? But the heated seats will work.
Yeah, you need those
The
today.
DVD machines will work in the back. Like shit we don't need, right? But
Unreal.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, no, I feel good. I said last show we talked about how not to get sick off a cigar and the whole heartburn thing. When I turned 40, I just like something just went like this.
Something clicked
and I
in
was
you.
getting heartburn every single day. And I went and seen the doctor, and he gave me a prescription. I forget what it's called. These little blue pills. And everybody's like, "Oh, little blue pills, eh?" And I'm like, "No, they're." But yeah, no, I haven't had heartburn in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Probably. Yeah, it's awesome.
You
Absolutely.
don't want to live with that.
Yeah.
There's no way.
So then a guy I work with, he's like, "Oh, like you got like weight loss pills? Is that what it is?" And I'm like, no, I can still be a fat bastard. I just won't get heartburn for it.
Oh man, too critical.
Yeah.
People critical. Awesome.
How much we got on? We got 8 folks on. Oh boy, we got a few more. Ontario Farmer, good evening. Good evening. Good evening. James Hoffer's on. And then Kristen said, "Oh man, enjoy it while it lasts. Everything's broke over here, waiting on parts for a lawnmower. Yard's a jungle right now. Sure don't help with mosquito. Isn't that the truth?"
Yeah, you want to keep that grass low.
Yeah.
I've been morning dew and it's just soaked and it's just and then it gets to like 25 degrees. It's a breeze.
Oh, it's just everywhere, right? Yeah. I look at the periphery of our yard or anywhere we got a verge, and I've got to get in there with a weed whacker, and we don't have a really good weed whacker. And I've been trying to convince the wife to let me spend $700 on this like two-handled
steel
with the harness and the face shield and like a I don't know what you call those, like a skill saw blade on basically like a brush blade or whatever, and you can just like mow down trees and stuff with it.
That's what we got. My old man, he was just like, it's got to be the weed eater brand weed eater from PV Mart or nothing, because just that would make the day the worst possible day you could have.
Yeah.
And when I got a little older, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this guy wants us to weed eat around all the grain bins and the shops and everything. Yeah. And we got like a weed eater brand weed eater with basically fishing line in it.
Yeah, and like they're meant for like doing your garden town. It's like this big, right?
Yeah, I don't know what they're meant for. They're totally junk. So then I went into Greg's and I was like, "Where's your still weed eaters?" And I got the triangle blade, like the Death Star.
Yeah.
And you can hammer down willows like this big.
The one that comes with like 3.
Oh yeah, and
three samurai swords.
You start filing that down, and you feel like you're. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah, but I had taken some actually aviation cable too. And I ran it through there and welded the ends.
Yeah.
That was a total disaster because when it frayed, it got all wobbly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it kind of worked for a minute or two, but I think it was onto something. I didn't have. You
should probably ask somebody in China to perfect that one for you.
Yeah, it would have been better if I had a little more engineering than just like, oh, well, this should work. But I think it would have.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that blade is good too. Yeah, you could when you get the right tools, things go a lot quicker.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? And even we'll get into this too. If you get the right tools, you can actually even push some of these really physically demanding blue jobs off.
Oh, yeah.
Onto.
Yeah, well, that's how lawn mowing is in our house. Is because when we had pardon my French, a really shitty John Deere lawnmower, ride-on lawnmower, but it would go about a half a mile an hour, and it would take 5 hours. That was my job, right? But then we dropped 7 Gs on a Kubota 0 turn. And whatever.
Which is now worth 17.
But yeah, it's probably double or triple. Yeah, exactly. Resale value is pretty high. But the wife can go and she just loves it. She just boom, 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 run away, and 2 hours later the whole yard's mowed and it just looks fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. So, whereas I'm on that old John Deere, just can't just spill my beer and everything's just terrible, right? So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not to take away from the fact that paint jobs can't be difficult. It's just when you don't want to see that. If you can make it better, you want to make it better. So when you make it better, you feel better about passing these jobs off.
Yeah.
Than passing off some piece of shit that's going to break in 5 seconds.
There's
everyone's going to be frustrated.
Generally, the paint jobs that we have around here, either I don't have the patience for, or they're just too, like I just got these big sausage mitts that I just don't have the dexterity for it, and then I just get frustrated, right? So
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What do we got? What are we smoking tonight?
Smoking? So we had a big inventory stocking.
Okay. Isn't that?
What did we end up? We ended up. Well, I had to run, so you had the privilege of stocking this. It must have been what 35 or so cigars.
I think. Yeah, I don't even know what the total is, but like it's full. Like it's full right to the top. I could maybe put one more in there.
And this is a 150, so this holds 150 of an average size cigar.
Yeah.
So, But what we're going to have tonight, so I was fortunate enough to know someone who was going to Cuba. So
Knows a guy.
I know a guy. And he picked us up these Monte Cristo No. 2. So I jotted down some notes on this. Monte Cristo No. 2 cigars, made in Cuba. The ingredients come from Cuba. They're actually from a region in Cuba with some of the highest quality tobacco. They are the gold standard in cigars.
Mm.
They're one of the only cigars to ever rate 95 points by Cigar Aficionado. This is a basically 6-inch 52 ring gauge. The one we smoked, was it last live stream, that Texas Lancero? That was a 70 ring gauge. So quite a bit smaller cigar, but definitely more manageable. These are torpedo cigars, which when you cut
it, a pyramid torpedo too, isn't it? I believe
it's very possible. But when this is designed to channel the smoke onto your palate, once there's going to be everything coffee, right? So there's coffee, leather, and then some earth tones to this as you start.
Earth tones, like a hay bale.
Like a hay bale. The other thing I found interesting when I was reading about these, so there's a few factories in Cuba that make these, and because of that, quality and consistency is very difficult. So as they are doing their ratings on these cigars, they're going to lose out some years if they come from the wrong place or whatever.
I suppose they would, yeah.
So you and I talked that our plan was never to buy like big boxes of cigars and smoke the same one all the time.
No.
However, with these Monte Cristo cigars, you actually can. It's something you can keep adding to your humidor because you're not going to get the same one all the time. It might come from another factory in another part of Cuba. So
well, and as they age too, the flavor profiles can change, right?
Absolutely. They say these do get quite a bit better with age.
It's funny. I watch some of the videos put up by Davidoff of London, and they've got cigars that are 30, 40 years old. And they said like the flavor profile, of a 40-year-old cigar versus a 4-year-old cigar, it's completely different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These, interestingly enough, they're like a hugely popular cigar around the world, and because of that, they really always maintain their value. They're around a $30 cigar, basically.
So these aren't $30.
Yeah, $30 a piece to buy them, and so a box of 25 is like $700. Now, however, Cuba Direct, massive savings.
You know a guy.
A massive savings. So
not declared customs.
They did declared, yeah. Oh, really? Absolutely, okay. Yeah. No, because it was funny. He said because he flew into Calgary, and I was like, well, how are we going to get these up here? Because from what I've seen, you cannot ship tobacco. So he went down to the post office and he asked the post office guy, I said, can I ship these up to Hythe? He's like, oh yeah, no problem.
Away you go.
They fired him in the box and shipped them up here.
And I was ready. Like I even talked to Carmen. I said, like, what do you think? Like next weekend, 17th, we'll just drive. We'll just go to Calgary. Company fuel card, why not, right?
Absolutely. But no, it's shipped them right up here. And I'm pretty excited because that was quite a large savings for the old pocketbook to get Cuba Direct.
Big time. Yeah.
He did say though, like the money didn't go as far. He said COVID pricing has reached Cuba as well.
It has, eh?
So there's none of this, bartering for 1,000 cigars for a few pesos or Cuban convertible pesos or whatever.
It's good for the goose, good for the gander. So.
And then I figured you would know this, but I was kind of excited because I'm not a bookworm, but you are. But these are named after the Count of Monte Cristo, the book.
Not after
the hero.
After a ham sandwich.
No,
French toast.
No, they're not. They're named after that. And the story was there. The lector would read that book to the cigar makers, and that was their favorite book. So.
That's kind of an interesting thing too. That the big cigar factories, they actually have a guy that sits there and will read to the cigar rollers throughout the day, just to kind of, I don't know if it's to entertain them or to keep them focused or whatever. But
one thing I'm feeling like when I brought these over here, like they felt quite dry.
They did, and a couple of days in the humidor. What's the humid at right now? It's 76% right now.
Something you're not going to want to tackle. Get in the box because I phoned him right away when he got home from. I said, do not put those.
Don't put them in the freezer. Yeah.
Because that's what you're told. I mean, maybe not told anymore, but I remember hearing that from lots of people. Like, oh yeah, get good home, throw them in the freezer, it'll last forever. He's like, do not. I said, do not put those in the. Or if you're gonna put them in the freezer, just throw them out.
Can you imagine, like, just put a match to it and it would just go,
but
disintegrate.
It wouldn't have been good. These are. I don't know if I had very many cigars that were properly housed in a humidor. I mean, it's totally different. than getting some dry old thing.
Well, it is, yeah.
And submitting somebody's, top of somebody's
Absolutely.
fridge in the crisper.
Or even like the old Captain Blacks that I had rolling around the glove box or whatever, the center console.
Absolutely.
Let me slice this open here. Try not to, just the tip. Oh yeah.
You don't want to take too much off.
I think that actually worked out good. That humidity, because it didn't crack, it didn't crumble. Come off just clean.
So yeah, these are ones you want to check for draw right away, because consistency. Of course, these are our first ones, so we don't know.
That's a lot of draw. This might smoke pretty quick. I'm not sure.
Good thing we got a box.
So you might want to take a little less than this. I just took about 3/8 of an inch. You want to light first? Have the honor.
Exciting. Also, you'll notice we got the proper bands.
The original bands.
We didn't have to do any undressing of the cigar.
That was interesting because the guy he picked up 2 Romeo and Juliets too. Romeo and Juliet #2s.
Okay.
So we already have some of those in here, and they come in an aluminum can. The aluminum can is military green. It was interesting to see this bright white and red sleeve that it comes in. So we sure get ripped off on the artistry here.
We do, yeah.
The lighter's sure struggling at life these days, isn't it? I'm actually going to look for a table lighter. What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe I should have cut some more. You might have led me astray.
Think so? I'm going to turn this down a bit. Well, and that's interesting, because one cigar to the next, you already talked about that, having the inconsistency between them. It's very plausible that you might have a tighter draw.
It's not. Interesting.
Oh, that is beautiful.
It does. It smells good. It smells good right off the bat. Not like the old glove box cigar we had last time.
The Texas Lancero.
It was a good cigar, but
it was a good cigar, but it was a lot.
That was a lot, and it smelled atrocious.
I mean, that was a labor of love getting through that thing,
What have I done here? What have I done wrong? We'll just give it
a
slow roast.
Yeah.
So that's cigars. What are we going to?
Oh man, we should catch up on the comments here real quick. Yeah, Kristen said we got one of the electric Yardworks weed eaters, and it surprisingly works super well. Could use 2 more batteries, but takes about an hour to charge. We have 20 to 35 minutes to kill it. Interesting. We're just chewed through everything, taking it through. None of the gas ones we've had could get through some of what I've tried to use it on. That's what I noticed right now with the we got a small still one, and even that thick grass, the Timothy that's already flowered out, and it'll just go in, it'll just drag itself in there and just wrap itself up. It's just junk. Anyways, whiskey. We are in for a treat here tonight, I tell you. We're gonna have Glenmorangie Speyside Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. This is the Elgin Classic with a sherry cask finish. Now, I didn't do a pile of homework on this one just because, there's a full bio written right on the box. It's very, very easy to see what we're getting into. So the Glenmorangie Distillery has been producing single malt Scotch whiskey since the 19th century from Elgin, which is the capital of Speyside. Speyside, as you know, is in the northeast corner of the Highlands in Scotland. It's actually Scotland's most famous whiskey region. What's funny about it is half of the whiskey that comes out of Scotland comes out of Speyside. They have 50 distilleries there, and it's like 40 million liters of whiskey come out of there every year. So kind of cool. And then for color, so it's a burnished gold. The nose is bursting with dried fruits, cinnamon, and toffee candy. And the taste, it says incredible layers of sweet vanilla oak, dark chocolate, and oriental spice. So interesting. And the finish is satisfyingly long with a tingle of spice. and a food pairing. It's interesting that it comes with a food pairing. Shortbread or a rich fruitcake, or alternatively match the spice of the whiskey to a slow-cooked chili con carne. I never would have thought to have whiskey and chili, but
Whiskey and chili.
yeah,
There's some dedicated drinkers out there.
yeah, no doubt.
Drink for everything.
Something for everything, yeah.
Are you allowed to put this one on ice?
This one is, you are allowed to put on ice, and I mean, it's one it's kind of, again, ice and whiskey, especially Scotch, is a polarizing subject. But the makers of Glenmore and the master distiller himself said, if you do it, just be aware that it will take out certain flavors off the front end, but it will unlock a whole bunch of other flavors with the undertones that you maybe wouldn't otherwise get. So I'm going to try a cube.
You're going to put a cube in?
Yeah, I'm going to see exactly how it goes.
You know, when I was reading through the comments, it was amazing. So we had covered that there's several different factories and all sorts of quality, but the ratings go from 0 to 10 on these. And there's lots of talk of inconsistent rolling and how tight the cigar is wound. This is probably by far the hardest draw of all the cigars that we've had up here so far for me.
And it's strange because mine is like silk. It's very smooth. It just pulls easy.
And I mean, I even drove that tool like.
And you've got a much larger piece cut off.
I cut the tool, but at least it's staying lit. I heard, lots of the comments indicated that it was going to touch the nose. Oh, that smells good too.
It smells really good. It's very, very similar to the Dalmore.
I was going to say they all right away.
I think that's that Oloroso sherry cask that they finish in, right? It's very consistent that way. And that's one thing with the Speyside whiskeys is that it's very common for them to use that sherry cask finish, whereas more of the Islay malts, they're more peaty and they have a bit more burn to them. So generally this is more like a dessert whiskey or an after supper whiskey, right? So may I?
Absolutely.
There's a mosquito in here.
He'll meet his fate here soon enough.
Oh, I got him just like that.
Instant.
I have no more living enemies. I think I learned this lesson from you. You don't pour the whiskey and then put the ice in, because then it goes baloosh.
You look like an amateur. Of course, we had those spherical ones too that were hard to get into the. That block's going to be tricky.
Half melted, and we'll see. But
I got to try it first without, and then I'll add like the ice like an amateur. You pour over the ice, hear the ice crack, and then
just like that. What are your first thoughts?
Well, it's spicy. The spice is quick. There's that burn.
It smells like apple juice, most definitely. Mm. Yeah, it's got a kind of a lower tone flavor, more appley, but a lot of bite to it. Eh?
It is sharp. It's more. So that those Dalmore and what was the other one we had? They were quite a bit sweeter. Even that Balvenie one.
The Balvenie.
Yeah. This is more of a rough. Certainly less sweet, but.
Speaking of the Balvenie, so Speyside, that it is the most famous whiskey region in Scotland, and 5 of the top distilleries in Scotland are actually in Speyside. So they've got Glenfarclas, which we have a bottle of Glenfarclas back here. We have not cracked yet. We maybe have to do that next time.
Oh.
Glenfiddich, Aberlour. Is that what we had last time? Aberlour?
I don't think we had that. That must have been when you got.
Oh, we've had Aberlour, and then and Balvenie, and the only one we don't have is the Macallan.
Oh,
out of the top 5. So
Well, I'm gonna have to have a look for that then.
yeah.
We ended up with quite a variety fairly quick.
Yeah, no, I mean it's turned into an exciting thing. I'm pretty happy how it all turned out. We're getting a lot of interest too. Like lots of people are saying like, "Hey, want to get in on this? Maybe we're gonna have to bring."
Yeah, we're gonna have to find another chair,
like a couch or something, man, like a casting couch.
Yeah. Who's watching? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, we'll have to figure out something. Hard to know. We'd squeeze it in though. It's kind of like.
Oh, we'd have to redecorate.
We'd have to redecorate
for those guest ones. We'd have to if we ever did it. But yeah, I've had close to half a dozen people that have already broached the subject, right? So it might be an opportunity. Craig Aldi, actually, I was talking to him yesterday. He's the Broken Tine Orchard. They make ice cream, they make jam, they make fruit filling for pies, and they also make the mead.
The mead,
and there's one other one they make. It's a gorgeous wine, actually. What do they call that? Melomel. That's what it is. Yeah.
Don't believe I've ever journeyed out that far.
Yeah, no, and you can just get it locally here, right here in the Peace Country, right? So with the Haskap berries, so kind of interesting.
Well, that is a mighty fine cigar and a mighty fine Scotch.
Yeah, I like this. Is a really good cigar. Very mild. You know, I think it complements the whiskey well right off the get-go. Kind of helps to balance the burn a little bit. Just not too peppery. Almost reminiscent of caramel, even perhaps.
Yeah, well, it definitely has a sweeter taste than the other ones we've had.
I like it. James said it's amazing how much more expensive things become once they are imported into the country. Isn't that the truth?
Well, we've you and I both have looked at like quite a few cigars, and we go to different shops and stuff, and it is truly amazing when you go online and you look at websites dedicated to cigars, and you find flight packs of cigars, so sampler packs and boxes and stuff, and then you go basically anything domestically in Canada, and you're looking at like 1,000% markup in most cases. You're going from $6 a cigar to $46.
Yeah, exactly. A buddy of mine tipped me off about cigarplace.biz is a website that he buys from. And every once in a while, I think something slips past customs without getting caught, and you can get a pretty good deal. But with that duty, that excise tax, that sure smokes your cigars for you.
Yeah.
So.
Which is kind of unfortunate. I mean, I guess they have their reasons for it, but life is short. So
everybody, it's the government, right? They got to get a piece.
Why such a big piece? You could leave something for the enjoyment.
Well, nothing's sacred anymore, right? So, anyways, how much folks we got? I'm at 5 on right now. We've kind of been up and down a little bit, and that's the cool thing about the live streams. You don't have to sit here all night and listen to us chat, but if you're able to get in for a bit, drop us a comment. That'd be awesome. This evening we're going to talk about pink and blue jobs. That's kind of I don't know. You could get some people fired up just with the title alone, because
depends on how you want to approach it. Right? You can really stir some stuff up.
You could, yeah.
And I noticed you and I actually have both taken a fairly mild approach to the subject. So,
well, I think there's got to be balance, right? There's, a person can still have traditional conservative values and not be draconian, right? And that's the thing. Like I'm a 40-year-old white guy, right? Got guns. I got a job. I eat a lot of meat, which I grow my own. Myself, eat more meat than eat vegetables. We own our own home. We don't give a rat's ass about the health food store. We don't own any kind of alpaca knitwear, anything, nonsense like that. If we had no kale protein bites, I just wouldn't care. It wouldn't be bat an eyelid, right? So that kind of individual stereotypically would drive the liberal far left or straight up the wall.
Yeah.
Right? You know. But the first side of that, the other side of that coin is that, you know, I'm also a husband and a father of 3 daughters, and their future, the success for them is critical for me, right? We got skin in the game, right? We got vested interest. So hopefully the stuff we have to say tonight doesn't get us canceled, because I mean, no, we're not going to talk about anything out of malice. We know it's fairly mild already, but if we do say anything controversial, it's not said out of meanness.
There's no malicious intent.
It's intended to kind of spur on some discussion with some other people, right? You can't solve a problem that you don't talk about. That's why my wife wouldn't hold my hand here today, because I didn't want to talk about something, and she's just like, well, that's not doing you any favors. But yeah, I noticed in your notes you got some stuff outside of Canada. The notes I have, I can't even pretend to know anything outside of, you know, the Western civilized world. I haven't referenced anything in the developing world at all, just because.
Well,
I can't profess to know anything of it, right?
I was quite surprised, and I should have actually wrote down. I can't even remember what it said on the poll we had done with the topic. It was something the modern homestead or whatever. So yeah. I sort of stuck specifically to things in ag, and when it came up, it was actually quite shocking to me, because you assume you know, all day working in the field and things like that to be more of a masculine type person doing that thing. And I didn't realize it was 60 to 80% of the food production in the developing world is done by females.
Yeah. What are the guys doing?
So when in the same article, that in sub-Sahara, like in that whole region of the world, there's the mono-cash crops that are cultivated by the men, and right next to that, there's up to 120 varieties of whatever being cultivated by the women. They're also raising the smaller livestock, the chickens, the pigs, the sheep, and they're doing all of this work. And I never really thought of it until we started looking into this. But yeah, 60 to 80% of the food production in the developing world is cultivated by the female.
It's interesting. Do you think those numbers pair up in Canada or even in North America?
I think we're seeing a pretty big shift, and that's going to be in here. There's a lot of women moving into agriculture, a lot, and you know, part of that, and I guess part of it is people in general are going back to agriculture, because agriculture wasn't the same as it was in 1927 when my grandpa got off the train in Wembley and walked to Limburg, then grubbed out a living with a hoe and seeded 8 acres the first year by hand.
Yeah.
Like, nobody would want to do that, male or female, or anything. Nobody would want to do that.
Oh, the times have changed.
But now when you climb into something like Gus, our tractor, that's already a 2013. You know, we got heated seats, climate controlled cab, full auto.
Heated seats in the tractor?
I didn't even, my dad told me that, because he had somebody jumped in, rode around with him, and hit the button,
and his ass started sweating.
And why you need that, I don't really know. I guess if you're plowing snow in winter,
sure. Yeah, if you're in a plow truck.
But yeah, so these things have all these modern what's the word, but amenities, and I mean, they're in your agricultural tractor. So when you could ask anybody to do this. I mean, you could ask a 14-year-old kid, who age doesn't really matter as long as they're competent to drive and steer this thing. Gender doesn't matter either, because there's virtually no work involved.
So what matters? Because I got a point to make on this about the 14-year-old kid, but what does it take to run that tractor?
What does it take?
Just a heartbeat and a warm pair of boots, or
no? Your heart has to be in it, especially in agriculture, because if you're not going to do a good job, you're going to be very detrimental, and that's right down to missing and overlapping, and you know, obviously running over the highway and hitting the power pole and stuff like that. You have to be responsible. You have to be mature. But you don't need. My point is, you don't need the broadest shoulders and the biggest muscles, because this is going to be a physically demanding day.
Yeah. I met 3 young gentlemen today. I was doing some volunteering in the community this morning, and these 3 young gentlemen got their overalls on, their work boots on, and they're just giving her head down, ass up, working hard. When we were done, I said, you know, How you guys live in town? Yeah, okay. How old are you? Some 17, some 18. Do you have any interest in joining the fire department? Because I mean, we're always looking for people, right? Hardworking people. And I'm not going to name any names because I don't want anybody to get in trouble. But the one kid's just like, oh, I can't. Oh, well, like why can't you? Like your grades too low. You got to study, or like what's holding you back? He said, oh, my buddy told me that you can't smoke weed for 3 years and you have to pass a lie detector test. I thought, God damn, that's the future. That's the future. A kid can't even pass a piss test once in 3 years and is deathly scared of a lie detector test. You know, that's the moral, that's the work ethic that we have coming. And maybe it's just because I'm my age now and I'm just getting grumpy or whatever, but I do fear for the future of the world because what's legal and what's right is not always the same thing.
Yeah, when
he's 17, so it's not legal. But that's not the point.
When you slither down that path, it's hard to not think that there's an evil undertone that is pulling society into a place of total dependence. Like we're prolonging adolescence indefinitely. So you'll remain dependent in one form or another on something.
That's what made me mad because here I'm literally on a silver platter after having seen these young lads for 15 minutes on a silver platter, handing them the opportunity of a lifetime. And I'd rather smoke joints. Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, anyways, what we got on here? Bird Boy 74, Fred. Hey, I was trying to order hot sauce. My order cost would have been $30. Shipping was $50. Yeah, isn't that the reality? Tambour Stations. Hello, gents. Just got in from seeding my hay field with my 1963 8-foot Kirschman disc drill and 35 horsepower boomer tractor. Hay blend and a cover crop. Well, I'm glad you're putting a cover crop in because that's right up my alley. So, but the 8-foot disc, boy, that would have been. You'd be there a while. But that's how it's been done.
Up and back for 1 acre.
That's the thing, right? So, getting it done doesn't matter. Just get it done. Put the time in. Anyways, as I mentioned, nothing we're going to say is to be mean-spirited. And I pulled a quote out of a favorite book of mine. Actually, it's right up here. Plato, one of the classics, right? Keep that up here. It's good. It's a good read. Plato is a famous Greek philosopher, and he credited what is arguably maybe even the more famous philosopher, Socrates, as having said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing." And that's often taken as a lesson in humility, but again, in delivering the context, the whole story, Socrates went to visit the Oracle of Delphi, and the Oracle of Delphi kind of brown-nosed him a little bit and said, well, Socrates was the wisest person in all of Athens. So Socrates said, well, if I know nothing and I'm the wisest person in Athens, then surely all of mankind must know nothing. Well, the only way he could be wiser than others is if he's aware of his own ignorance, right? So all we can do is take that you take it at face value, really, right? And then it's logical to say that we too have to recognize our own ignorance about certain things and just continue to learn, strive, have discussions like we're having here tonight, and just be better husbands, be better fathers, be better role models for our community, right? So Ken said it took him 6 hours to seed that, so that's a while. Not bad though. 6 hours.
It takes what it takes, right? Yeah. The job's got to be done. It takes what it takes.
You get 6 hours without rain. Have at her.
So it's good to be getting things done. I still got to do I got about 7 acres where I'm going to seed some grass and some oats on it here.
Yeah,
it always floods.
7 acres of oats and grass. You just to soak up some moisture.
Well, it always floods. It's in a low spot, so we're going to put it into hay.
Put some rice in there.
Well, we're not right in the climate for that.
No.
What's rice? That's probably like 140 day crop.
I don't actually know.
It's probably.
I just assumed that you just needed it to be underwater because you always see pictures of it.
Yeah, cranberries and rice. I seeded some sunflowers. That was a disaster, I think. I don't know yet.
The sunflowers are
6
awash.
acres. Well, they're just, I don't know how close they're supposed to be. Like I mean, you can take a pretty big step without hitting one. I don't know if that's good.
I would have thought you'd want to be every 18 inches.
Yeah, and then you're like 1 per 2.5 square feet or whatever. So I don't know.
The wind is just going to whistle through there now.
But I think it said on the bag how many seeds were in there. I think there was supposed to maybe be 20-some thousand plants per acre or something.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess it could be there. I did something stupid too. Like, it's kind of hard to do these small patches with 50 feet of drill. So you're doubling over.
Sure, yeah.
And basically, once you've doubled over what you've already seeded with a precision drill, it's no longer precision because now you got like 2 different depths of crop, and because the furrow goes over the other.
Yeah,
it's a disaster. And I kind of did that on the whole 5 acres. So I don't know. We'll see what comes.
But is it a disaster? I mean, at the end of the day, September, October, whatever, you're going to have learned something.
Oh, I learned right away already that you don't overseed like that.
Yeah,
that was right away learned. The plants are there. I mean, I don't expect much of it. Sunflowers themselves are like 130 day crop, so seeding those in the middle of May. I mean, unless they're snow sunflowers.
Well, I planted, 150, anywhere from 150 to 200. I kind of lost count there, somewhere in between, but pumpkins in a 30 by 30 space.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just going to be over. That's going to look like Cinderella's fairy godmother.
They probably higher population is probably better for maturity.
Well, that's what I thought. Is it would just go square foot gardening with this stuff, and
seems to be the case.
Just kind of stack it up a little bit. Make use of the space, contend with the weeds maybe a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
How was that with your canola? How did you make it with that?
Things are going well. What
was growing in there? That was kind of
everything. Everything. You name it, it was there. It was everything. And it was funny. Like, my dad took the cultivator out and he worked a couple draws and some wet spots and then around the field. And everywhere he went, you could see as soon as that cultivator shovel stopped, the weeds were growing.
Is that right? Eh?
So, I mean, tillage has its ups and downs, and it's, people think of it as they will, but this year I think tillage would have been a big plus. We just didn't have the time.
Sometimes you put stuff to bed and sometimes you stir it up, right?
We just didn't have the time. So she's going to have to be a chemical application. One thing we were worried about is not being able to get enough of the chemical to do 2 passes. That's been
And how's that come to bear? Has it been the case?
Well, we sort of cheated this. We cheated the system. So we got enough seed and enough chemical to do that much seed, and then we seeded half of the seed.
Yeah.
And then we seeded the other half of the seed with our peas.
Yeah.
So we actually now have twice as much chemical for the straight canola.
Interesting.
Cheated the system that way. Didn't save any money, but at least we got the product because you're allowed up to 2 passes. And with the rec we kind of had, it's going to take another pass. Normally, I wouldn't have sprayed the canola until later on next week.
Yeah.
But I've already sprayed it once. So 2 weeks from now, what's it look like?
Interesting.
So.
And that's, you spend the time in the sprayer, but Corey does all the ordering, right?
She does all of the ordering. Yep. That's one thing. So our farm really is a best person for the job situation. That has really nothing to do with gender or physical fitness or anything. It's who can do this the best. Now she's all about spreadsheets and she's all about, and I'm just not. I don't like to look at sage accounting. I don't like any of that. So when
I'm pretty sure I owe you like $1,000 for a bag of grain.
That's possible. Yeah, I take cash.
Do you take whiskey?
Oh yeah, the Dalmore. That's what I'll take. Yeah, so she does all of that stuff. She does she prices up the fertilizer, prices up the chemical, prices up the seed, orders it, buys it. Of course, we do our spring plan earlier in the winter. January, February, we'll start to do it, and then around end of March, beginning of April, we'll change it as the weather looks. And but because up until then, you got to speak for some of this. Now you don't have to buy it all, you don't have to order it all, but you have to speak for some of it. When it comes to the physical things and machinery maintenance, see that's where farming really gets back into its roots of needing the broad shoulders and the dirty hands, and
Sure.
because this machinery is getting so big, and then the parts are, and like, it takes all day just to grease something.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not that other people can't do this. It's just, it's such an undesirable and miserable thing to do that I would rather just do that myself.
It's a different kind of patience that's required to get that thing done, right?
So I would rather crawl under this thing, rocks in the knees, smash my head, grease all over the place, sore hands from the grease gun, and then finish it up and say, okay, you can go with it now.
Yeah.
If it breaks, give me a call.
Sure.
You should be able to go, and then anybody can go. I mean, even my mom will take it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not? Right.
And she's not so young anymore, but it's so comfortable and it's so easy.
Heated seat, good for the back.
You just push the button and you kick back.
Yeah.
You wait your
radio
15
works.
minutes. Radio works.
Air conditioning.
Air conditioning works.
Yeah.
Phone charger in there. So you can do that or whatever you want to do.
Make TikToks.
Make TikToks all day long.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, good. That's good. Says that's Tamboro Station says that's the best way to do it. Teamwork. Who's good at doing what they do best? I agree. Well, do you think it's fair to say that the husband and the wife, or whatever the arrangement is, the man and the woman on the farm, should be mutually dependent?
Mutually dependent on one another?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, I'm not talking from a continuity of the species perspective. I mean, that's kind of a given, right? If you're not mutually dependent for that, then we're going to run out of kids real quick, and there won't be anybody to do the work. But
yeah,
I just mean in order to play to your strengths, right? If your relationship is based off of 50 or 100-year-old gender roles, many of the tasks within those gender roles don't even need to exist anymore.
Yeah, absolutely.
But a whole bunch of new ones do, and a lot of technology, like you mentioned, has been developed, and there's why not?
But the thing too with dependency, so this, and in 2022 in the modern world, it's amazing. So you should definitely rely on each other. But one year, it was that MELT program or driver program or whatever it was for Class 1 drivers when that was getting big.
Yeah.
I looked at Corey and said, why don't you just go get your Class 1?
Why not, right?
She doesn't need to. She goes and gets the fertilizer, so she does drive the tandem. So she needs her Class 3 or whatever.
Needs a 3, yeah.
But she could use a single axle and stuff like that too. We were very close to the fertilizer plant. She doesn't even get that big a load. It's 5 ton at a time or whatever. But I thought, why don't you do this? Not that you'll ever need to. I mean, I don't expect you to go be a trucker or haul grain or anything, but why not get it? So, I mean, in this one weird case scenario, at least no one can ever deny you this by saying you don't have a license for this.
That's right.
So she went and got it.
Yeah.
Does she ever plan to use it? Not really.
But good for her, though.
But she's got it, right? And lots of people are kind of impressed by that. Like, well, and they even ask, well, why would you get it? Well, kind of, why not? I mean, we got the truck, we got the trailer. So if she needs to move something around the yard, or heaven forbid, she does need to haul a load if I get sick or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, even when she comes for a ride, she doesn't want to drive, and I don't blame her. That's not her thing. But she's not reliant, I guess, anymore.
Yeah, and that's good. That's really good, right? It shouldn't be that way. Right? So, it's kind of funny. You know what I was excited about doing this episode is because of something I said last episode, and I think I was 4 whiskeys deep when I mentioned it, and I made an out of pocket comment about feminism. And so that's why I thought, well, this is going to give me the opportunity to kind of kick that can of worms and just see if it opens and see what happens, right? And the whole thing about feminism is it had its time and it had its place. And what we have now is we call Neofeminism or liberal feminism, whereas if you have a cause, you really want to be careful when you have a cause, because sometimes other things get attached to that cause and it goes somewhere away from its original intent. And what I've seen, and again, this is just my male observation for my stupid male head, right? But neo-feminism is now as destructive as any other form of supremacy-based prejudice, right? Whether it's ageism, sexism, racism, whatever, right? It's equal in every ounce right now to toxic masculinity. And I would even hazard to say, though, that toxic masculinity doesn't even exist. I don't know if you would agree with that one or not, but I think we use a paintbrush to condemn an awful lot of people for a very marginal group.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I can say for sure. I mean, I run a fairly tight circle. I'm fairly removed from. I mean, I don't even work out, so my exposure to this is media, TikTok, Facebook, things
Sure.
like that. Court cases ongoing in the United States.
We've all watched that for the last
all these
60
things.
days.
But yeah, I mean, I don't see these issues as being as big as others.
I don't think they're systemic. I don't think toxic masculinity exists any more than toxic femininity does. I think that you've got toxic personalities.
Absolutely.
Right. There's nothing cultural going on. There's nothing that's within a specific group. You've just got somebody that's an asshole. Straight up. That's what they're just an asshole. Right. And the whole thing with feminism has been really easy to attach itself to because it was a legitimate movement. Feminism itself isn't what achieved equality. I mean, it was a driving force for it. And in the first wave of feminism, the suffragette movement during the 1920s, that's what got the landmark equality by, equality within the law, right? It got women the right to vote. And then subsequently it got them the right to hold office. And once you can make a break, or once you can establish new law or change a law, you have equality, right? You not only got a seat at the table, you're literally having a vote and you're making a difference, right? So I just think that the whole logic of that argument has outlived itself by 100 years, right? So smooth, but if you stop puffing on it, it goes out quick, eh?
It does, and I don't know if it's just it hasn't been long enough in the humidor to get seasoned properly, or.
Well, that could be, because how many days was it? It was nowhere near 14.
No, I come here, I think like 2 days ago. It's Saturday. Yeah, probably Thursday. Maybe Wednesday.
Still not that. Anyways, as I was saying, Neofeminism as a movement in the last 10 years has been more about man shaming. Well, I shouldn't say more about man shaming, but it's been definitely as much about man shaming as it has been about women's rights, right? The problem is that women have been competent and they've had the capability all along. They've never not been competent. They've never not been capable. They might have lacked the opportunity. They might have lacked the empowerment, but they've always had the personal ability to do all of this stuff, right? I remember, the old song from the 1930s, anything he can do, I can do better.
Yeah.
Right. That's very true, right? It's always been there. Now, we all have strengths. We should always play to them, but we shouldn't sit in that box that society says we should. Now, the whole thing, like, can a woman be a woman anymore? Or does a woman have to be a man now?
I guess it depends on
what. I said we were going to kick a can of worms here, and I'm going to say, like, Caitlyn Jenner, first year getting the business rearranged, wins Woman of the Year. What a kick in the tits that is. Like,
wasn't really my thing.
I always thought, like, if feminism has gone to where it's gone so far to the liberal left, so far now that you can accommodate women to be men, and they're better than women at being women.
Yeah, well, it is.
Isn't that just?
It has definitely chipped away at itself to now it's actually eroding the whole thing. It's not. It's doing a lot of damage.
Oh,
but I mean,
I think it's condescending, and I think it's rude. Like, it's just unbelievable, right? So,
but you're seeing that quite a bit in college sports and things like that.
Well, you do, right? I mean, what the whole thing with the Olympic gold medalist, right? Of course he can outswim the women. That's about physical capability.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not apples to apples. Therefore, it shouldn't be, right? So, anyways, as I was saying, that just kind of got me fired up there for a second. I apologize. The whole thing is that, women aren't the homemakers any more than men are the bread makers anymore in the average home. Everybody's going to have a role to play. Everybody's got to have a piece. you got to have a bit of skin in the game and work together, right? Like we live on the farm, same as you, right? You have to have an equal piece of it.
Yeah.
Right. I do laundry, I do dishes, take care of the kids, but so does Carmen.
Yeah.
Right. And there's balance. But when there's farm work to do, yeah, the hay's not going to bale itself. You got to get out there, and we all got to chip in, right? So, at the end of the day, your wife can't raise two of her kids and one of your mother's.
No, and they definitely shouldn't have to. I mean, there should be certainly enough will and drive in the male to ensure that their day doesn't end the minute the traditional gender role jobs are done.
The 1950s, right? The man would come home from the office, he'd put his slippers on, the wife would have a whiskey waiting for him, supper was in the oven, kind of thing. He'd kick back with the newspaper, and his day was done, right? And that doesn't fly anymore. That's not what keeps food on the table. That's not what keeps relationships working.
No, and we've also advanced like tremendously in the 2000s, that things are happening so fast. And I was thinking, when I was jotting down these notes, like what kind of a selfish asshole would come in from outside, and then park their ass on the couch while their wife, who was endured the day with the children, cleaning and wiping snotty noses, and is now putting them to bed, and you're going to sit there while there's dishes to be done and supper to be put in the fridge and everything. You're like, what would be so wrong with getting up, doing those dishes, tidying this up, right? Or putting the kids to bed or whatever. A lot of times Corey does a lot of this research at night where she's on her computer looking up chemicals, 100%. Price checking, planning out the call she's going to make the next day. So what kind of a situation are you going to have if you're just parked on the couch because you finished greasing the seat belt and it's ready for tomorrow, and that's your job?
Yeah.
So you're gonna waste this hour and a half in the evening watching somebody struggle. I hate that. I hate watching anybody struggle. Well, I mean, what we call them stand and watch on the rig.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. Yeah.
I've referred to a lot of people just once I got off the rig. I tell a lot of people they're a stand and watch, and I hate that.
You can imagine, yeah, if this was the workplace, if your relationship was the workplace, and you were responsible for A, and the other person was responsible for B. You were done A, and then you just literally stand there and watch the other person struggle. How big of a dick are you?
It's
not teamwork.
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
You wonder why you can't make the dream work. Well, it's because there's no teamwork, right? So the whole thing is your wife can't be tending to your needs every second of every day. But be a fucking man and pick up your shit and get it figured out. Help out, and the same is true for the women, right? I mean, it's reciprocal.
Yeah.
They can't run their vehicle out of gas and then expect that miracles are going to happen. They gotta do a little bit of stuff too, right? But,
well, and it's funny. So I had said earlier, I don't have a lot of interest in Sage accounting. However, Corey, she made me put the app on my phone and kind of learn how to use it a little bit. Now, I'll be honest, I don't navigate through it because I don't care too much. But similar fashion, the other day when she was wondering why things weren't starting, and I said, well, then I showed her this is how you check an alternator.
Yeah.
I mean, is she ever going to need to do that? Probably not. Is she ever going to be somewhere with a voltmeter and in this situation? And I hope she's not, because that's my job.
We hope she's not.
But at least
in this situation,
now she knows, right? It's just as much as now I know, about Sage accounting. It's very important to have redundancy built in to this, where if somebody's down and out or somebody's busy, the show must go on.
Absolutely.
You can't be sitting idly back and say, well, I don't really know if that's my thing. I don't know if that's my job or not. I probably should just not do it.
Yeah, if you're sitting there wondering what's the right thing to do, it's not sitting there on the couch wondering what's the right thing to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's probably getting up and getting your boots on and ensuring that this is getting done.
Trying to be solutions oriented. Yeah. Fred just said I have supper ready every night because my wife doesn't get home until after I do. And that's the other thing too. I mean, especially in our household, we both work off farm. Carmen's home right now because she's on mat leave, but the typical day to day, looks like her not getting home until later than I do. So that means
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking up kids from daycare. I'm making supper. I'm making her lunch for the following day. And then once the kids are in bed, then go out and do chores and do all that kind of stuff, right? Because she works harder than I do, or more hours than I do for sure. So,
well, and that's the other thing. If people are really willing to admit it, you're going to find out that maybe it's just not what you thought. Maybe your job was not as physically demanding as you thought it was.
yeah.
I mean, I know, and I could say this in one of our earlier live streams. I talk about when it comes time for seating, and I get it. Nobody really wants to take that responsibility. That's my job, but it's not that hard if the stuff is maintained and you have, like Corey brings the fertilizer, she brings the seed.
Yeah.
You're in a tractor. Mine doesn't have a heated seat, but whatever. I can survive that. So, but lots of times it shoes off because it's 2 hours before you get out and fill.
Yeah.
So while everything's happening in the background, somebody's getting fertilizer, somebody's lining up chemicals, somebody's doing maintenance on the tillage machinery, somebody's doing all this stuff. There's me doing effectively the most important job at the time, sowing the crop.
Yeah.
Basically expending the least amount of effort. Just
right.
Back and forth,
yeah.
back and forth, back and forth. My most stressful part of the day is to find out, should I go from 105.7 to 93.1? Or might I miss something?
105.7.
That's a phenomenal radio station.
That's a pretty good radio station.
It's the best one.
It is, yeah. So how'd this all start? How did it come to be that there's pink jobs and blue jobs? How did it come to be that there was such inequality in our society?
Well, I think in the inception of the pink and blue job probably had nothing to do with equality and inequality. It probably had everything to do with what made the most sense and what was the most efficient. I mean, children need their mother. That's basically undeniable. I would challenge any man to say they've heard their child cry out for them more than they've heard them cry out for their mother. Myself included, and I'm there every day. Sure. I don't work out.
No, that's the thing.
They still don't. They're like, no, we're good. I'll take mom.
So there's gender norms. That's a thing, like specific roles. But as far as the ability to drive change or to have a voice at the table, women had a voice at the table. It was during the mid to late 1800s where many women throughout the British Empire, and that of course stretched into North America, they were disenfranchised. They had the right to vote taken away from them, which was crazy. And I don't know why that was. It was some, like I said, nonsense with the British Empire. And women were expected to be subservient to the husbands, and the husbands could then represent the interests of the women, right? The man was supposed to be the head of the household. But the problem with that is mid to late 1800s, and we think about where we're at today, mid to late 1800s was, although the world was a hard place, times were actually fairly good, right? It was have time as opposed to have not time. And so you had a lot of weak men trying to represent strong, capable women. And life was really, really, really tough for them, right? So you got a weak man with a little principle, and then what happens? Well, the women end up in the back of the man's hand, right? It's
some domestic shit going to take place.
Some domestic stuff happens place, right? So whiskey's cheap.
I guess that's not funny, but
domestic. No, it's not. It's not at all. Whiskey's cheap. Women are marginalized by their husbands, and again, that's by their husbands, not by, and why, right? Because they're empowered by the government. I think we're dealing with not men as a whole or not women as a whole. We're dealing with a system of government which has been manipulated. And weak men.
It's funny because I asked my dad about my grandpa or whatever, and I mean there are some these older people that I'm talking to, and the general consensus that I found is generally what they tell me is that men were actually pretty content with being, I guess, left out of it. And what I mean, like, so if they were doing the work and made the money went to the woman. She decided how the money was doled out. They wanted to make very little decisions for the house. Now I don't know if that was like a rural Western thing, because
no,
I mean, you do hear
I don't think it was.
So I wonder, why this group of individuals ended up with this power over women and you see essentially robbing them the right to vote and stuff, taking it away. When from what I understand, most people, I guess my grandpa included, I mean, it kind of was. I mean, he might have been absent or whatever, but he didn't want the control. People like that, they were happy kind of working.
It was never intended to be about control, right? I mean, it was the man brought home the bacon, the woman decided how to serve it, and that worked. And you didn't need to oppress anybody to do it, because it was based upon what worked in that era, in that societal culture. That's what worked. And again, the women, the children needed their mother more than their father, and she was better skilled at it. And a house was $30,000, not $500,000. And yeah, let's be honest, times were different. Now we've got more families where both parents are outside the home working off farm or out in town somewhere. And the average mortgage in Canada is $750,000. So
holy moly,
how you gonna manage that? How you gonna manage that 1950s era household style? Maybe if you're a doctor or a lawyer or something like that, you can do that. But I don't know. Anyways, women weren't the only ones that were disenfranchised. Chinese Canadians, Japanese Canadians. There's a whole thing around the First World War.
Yeah.
Where they were just like anybody that was not one of the allies was, you can live here, but you're not going to have any say, kind of thing. It was pretty brutal, right? And the whole thing with the Indian Act that came through too, which was, our government's shady way to try and assimilate the First Nations population and break their spirit. That was super greasy too. So, the 19th and even the first half of the 20th century was exceptionally hard for a lot of people, unless you were a white male of European descent. Life was just easier for guys like you and I,
mm-hmm.
right? I think that gave a lot of argument, but ultimately, I still believe that at the end of the day, in 1950, there was still good men.
Yeah. Well,
right?
Yeah, undeniably there was.
Not everybody was racist and beating their wife. It couldn't possibly have been. So, anyways, to tell you that, not to take away from the struggles of women, but just to highlight that times are pretty shitty back in the day, right? So, anyways, why were they shitty? System of government, 100%. Right? You can have all these good people and a really shitty government. How does it come to be? You look at today in our system of government. What have we gone through the last 2 years? We've gone through this bludgeoning of our spirit to a point where we're just so apathetic. People don't even care anymore.
No.
Right? It was the same thing that happened previous to the Second World War. Times were really, really tough to the point where it was every man for himself or every woman for herself. And people were so apathetic that they just didn't even care what happened. And so the government could have this great overreach and, yeah, absolutely, tangibly oppress people to the point where life was almost inexhaustibly unbearable for them. And nobody would say anything about it. It just became acceptable because nobody wanted to get in the middle of it. And it just became the way things were.
Yeah.
And we're on the cusp of that again right now. The thing is, like I said, 1916, things changed. Women in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, believe it or not, gained the right to vote. In 1917, 2 women, actually in Alberta, were elected. Louise McKinney and Roberta McAdams were elected to the legislature in Alberta. In 1918, women got the right to vote federally. So, Quebec of all places, you would think one of the most liberal provinces in the country was the last province to get on board with letting women vote. That was in 1940. That was over 20 years after everybody else was like, yeah, let's do this, right? But anyways, for over a century in Canada, women have had some semblance of equality under the law, under federal law anyways. So, but here we are, still having to have this conversation today. Quite the deal. How far in are we now? We're an hour and 10 minutes in. We should probably talk about cups, eh?
Talk about cups.
Talk about cups.
Talk about cups, or who don't know about cups. Probably everybody knows about cups. So we do have.
There'd be a few folks on that haven't got a cup yet.
They haven't got them yet. So originally we had whiskey glasses. Whiskey glasses haven't come in yet, so we have these top shelf coffee mugs, Smoke and Oak. This is the first Smoke and Oak merchandise, or whatever you want to call it, that we've got. Actually, the stuff we had before was our farm logos.
Yeah, that's right.
So Chad actually won the first one. We got a couple more to give away. So in order to get these, you got to participate.
Yeah, here's the participation section of the evening.
And now for your participation.
It's kind of funny because since we kicked the can of worms, people have stopped commenting. So I don't know if nobody wants to get canceled on the internet or if they're just listening intently. But we don't have a ton of people on right now. And I certainly don't want to take my shirt off. And I know you don't either. I know that works.
I will if I have to.
It works on TikTok, but I don't know if it works on YouTube. I think that will get us canceled for sure.
Will if I have to.
Here's the thing. If you reach down, where is it? Right over here somewhere, there should be a share button right below this video. So share, go hit share, copy link, send to 5 of your friends, tell them they should tune in, tell them they should watch, tell them they should join the conversation. Let's have a party. If you do that, come back to the comment section. Let us know you did it, and then your name's going to be entered in the draw for one of these fantastic coffee cups.
Absolutely. And we've given away, I think there was like 6 or 7 winners already. So there's not a lot of names on the wheel. Like, this is not hard to win this stuff.
No, that's the thing. There's not a ton of people, and over half of the folks that regularly watch have already walked away with a prize.
They've already got something.
The chance of winning is super high, because if half the people have already won, they're not getting re-entered into it.
No, we're not at that point yet.
So
we want to give everybody a chance. I mean, we do appreciate the regulars as well.
It's like a 1 in 5 chance right now, right? It's 1 in 6.
Yep.
Maybe, so
probably.
Yeah. You know what? I think, did you get ice?
I put a little ice cube in there.
You did, eh?
I did, yeah.
I want to get rid of the ice. I don't recommend the ice.
I thought it was all right.
I'm gonna get rid of that. Maybe it's just because I got down to the last little bit and the ice is really melting. I was like, it's really, really watered down. It's not my cup of. That's not my cup of whiskey. So.
Well, that was a pretty big ice cube you put in there. I think
it was a lot. Do you want some more?
I would love some more. I think. You're supposed to use like whiskey rocks, right?
Well, exactly. I've got some of those, but I found that they just don't. They don't stay cold.
No, they don't. I got a bag or two myself, for in stockings and things. And yeah, they're just.
Seems like a wasted venture.
It's a terrible attempt at it. But I was researching ice, so the super clear ones. It's in the way that the freezing process is done, right? Like top down freeze, and they actually stay harder, so they don't melt as fast. So
clear ice is apparently where it's at.
Yeah, that's what. But you can buy the sphere machine and all this stuff, but from what I understand, you cannot make clear ice without the proper freezer. And it's a way it's.
Yeah. So there is a way you can do it. Is you've got to you almost need like a Coleman cooler, and you let it freeze partially. You get a large volume of water. But you let it freeze partially, and then you cut off that top layer, and then it works. But you're kind of cheating the system, because those freezers are expensive.
They are
thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, I've seen some of those bar rescue shows or whatever where they get one of those things in, and they're usually the highlight of the highlight.
How's your cigar doing?
What are we at the halfway point?
I'm on about my 5th or 6th relight here,
and something I don't know. Well, I drove that draw tool in fairly far, and I'm wondering if I got. No, I wouldn't have had it. But I when I hit about a quarter into the cigar, it all changed. Draw got easy.
I've gone the other way.
You went totally the other way.
I've gone the other way. The draws got tighter, and I don't know why. But
interesting.
See, it's tighter. It's not burning as evenly. Well, it's still burning fairly evenly, but. It's burning less around the edge and more towards the center, and I got to work for it. So Try that. See if that improves things at all. Oh yeah, that loosened her up a little bit. There you go. Anyways, as I was talking about the Enlightenment, the far left that we have right now has become so condescending to women, to the point where, I mean, so this was the group that was supposed to fight for people's rights, but now they're still providing the very loud voice for a group that they were empowering to be able to speak for themselves. So once you win the battle and you get somebody a voice, stop talking, let them fight their own fight.
Yeah.
You know?
And unless you realized maybe the fight wasn't what you thought it was going to be.
Well, it's
it ended pretty quick.
I think, you know, okay, well, you win one fight, and maybe you solve a problem, and then you want to keep solving problems, and you keep solving problems, but the problems get smaller and smaller and smaller, so you're just dealing with trivial nonsense, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we see now. People are getting canceled for stuff that doesn't even matter, stuff that's not even a problem. It's just like, get over yourself, you know, Karen.
That's just it. We seem to have reached a point where things are so comfortable and things are so well and good that we're just looking for problems. We seem to be just looking for that. Yeah. And I'm not really sure that's going to benefit anybody if we're dedicating so much time to solving such small problems for such a minority of people, or such a simple problem. We're just dedicating these tasks, blowing it up into these huge 100%. Things. We're exhausting a lot of time and energy on something that most likely will work itself out. Because
it's crazy, because it's not like the world is not without legitimate problems.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I mean, there's legitimate problems with, like, legitimate gender-based problems that, you know, we could solve for women. Not we, like men could solve, but like we as a society, we as a world could solve. You know, women in Pakistan, women in Saudi Arabia that don't have rights, that don't get to go to school, that don't have clean drinking water. Hell, we don't have clean drinking water here for half of our population.
Yeah.
You know, why don't we deal with those issues? Why don't we deal with the mental health issue? Why don't we deal with, you know, the homeless issue? Why don't we deal with education issues? Why don't we deal with healthcare? Instead of dealing with fucking pronouns.
Well, and that's it. So I had this, like, there's lots of these guys on all the various social medias, and obviously Jordan Peterson is one of the biggest ones, right? Influencing the young men. So we've
big fan, but he's about to become irrelevant.
You think so?
I think so.
So we've done quite a bit on women. So one of his things, you know, when he talks about the gender pay gap is, and then he talks about why women and men choose different professions. And his statement is, men are more interested in things and women are more interested in people. I can get on board with that.
Yeah.
However, and I think you and I both agree on this because we talk quite a bit about young men in 2022. I think his statement is eroding now. That might work for the working class people now and those on their way into retirement.
100%.
But the new generation seems to be a group of men who are interested in who the knows. Like, I don't know what
they want to sit home and smoke.
You had said earlier they're interested in making sure they never have to go under a lie detector test or piss in a cup.
Yeah.
And unfortunately comes with that, because there's a lot of problems. You know, even out west here, the country isn't even built yet.
No,
I mean, no, we literally are forcing the torch onto onto females to handle this, to figure it out. You know, and you see this with young men who are just totally incapable of getting their things together. And you watch this all. There's and I think that's why a lot of these guys, Jordan Peterson included, but these Cardones and these people, they're getting such massive followings by misguided young men.
They are 100%.
And I do not think they're doing a good any benefit to anything.
Easily impressionable. Yeah. They maybe should be talking to some 40-year-old people that have made mistakes that could have done a thing or two. But to the 18-year-old that's never experienced anything, they don't have anything to measure that against.
No.
Right? So it's kind of funny you mentioned that. Like my great-grandparents in the UK had flushing toilets and power in their house. Right? 5 years ago, I didn't have power. I was living off grid in the camper while we're building the homestead. We're totally.
Power didn't come to Lindburn until
stuff out.
1961. My dad said he was 9 years old
Yeah.
when they got power, and it just shocked me because when I was custom hauling grain or doing whatever it was, helping with the neighbor's spraying or whatever, I always talk to these guys, and the overwhelming majority of these people remember wash basins, wash tubs, outhouses, meat lockers in town, all of this stuff. So very young part of the country, very young part of the world, and there's a lot to do. We are nowhere near at the point of being able to give up. Things aren't that good. There's still a lot of work to do by both sides. And it truly frightens me. My dad says this a lot too. I mean, he says it's a good thing a lot of the infrastructure has been built, because what he sees coming up is just not going to do it.
Infrastructure doesn't last forever, though. Somebody's going to have, because I mean, I just think about, Beaver Lodge is our closest town, or it might be Hythe, but anyways, I'll just use Beaver Lodge as a reference. A lot of that underground infrastructure was put in 50, 60 years ago, and it is tired. Tired to the point that it's almost ready for a complete refit. And multi-million-dollar projects to do minor sections of it.
Yeah.
Right. So $1 billion to probably over $1 billion to put a whole new water system in town. Right. Who's going to do that work and who's going to pay for it?
I have no idea who's going to do the work, because you're seeing
not the young man that is scared about a lie detector test and passing the piss test.
And they're all too those are all too common situations. So
well, we have a whole thing around kept men these days. That's a thing now too.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's pride, maybe it's ego, but and again, I get the woman can go out and she can be the breadwinner 100%, but I know a couple kept men that are legitimately like, the wife goes out to work and they do nothing. They don't even do the housework. They don't take care of their own kids. They do nothing. They have external childcare that comes in, takes care of the kids, and I don't know. Like what is a man without a purpose? I can't even equate. Like, how do you get there? What goes on inside that person's head?
Well, that's a sin to anybody when you rob them of purpose. Like, there's no way you can't get depressed. There's no way. I mean, some might get depressed faster, but I can't imagine living just a selfish individual life.
Seems like a waste of breath, right?
While everybody else is carrying you on. And so you talk about and there are a tremendous amount, and that's the benefit of 2022. There's been so many options now, comfortable options to generate high income. I mean, we see tremendous high net worth individuals that do not get lowered into a coal mine.
Yeah.
Or climb onto the top of a building and tar the roof.
Yeah.
So where could you be, like, as a couple, as a family, as a spousal partnership, if you put in that same amount of effort because somebody was, or it was someone who's more successful than you?
Yeah.
Or put in any effort.
Isn't that something?
Like, where would you be? I mean, I know, like, when Corey worked out before we had kids, she had an awesome job. It shocked me.
Yeah.
Like because it was a white collar job. There was bonuses, there was perks, there was Amexes, there was all these things. I had a very blue collar job, arguably the bluest, roughnecking. I mean, I don't know. There are more blue collar jobs, but that was a pretty tough dirty. You know, I mean, I remember talking to my brother about it when I first started, and he said, like, this is almost exclusively one of the only jobs where you're expected to work 12 hours a day with no scheduled break outside.
Yeah.
There was no 5 minutes, 15, 20 minutes for coffee before noon. There was no lunch hour. There was no, I mean, the only time, the closest we got to lunch hour was in camp when you know, they're like,
when they would bring lunch.
These guys are paying for it, so I guess we may as well let them eat. Yeah. But if you brought your sandwich from the gas station, they didn't care if you ate it or not. I mean, you know that very well. They didn't really,
exactly.
I mean,
you just tuck it in the top and you try and eat it with pipe dope covered hands.
I asked my brother, I said, when do you eat? He said he just laughed. You know, he was at another rig working, and then I phoned him from the chain shack. He said, "You hope you brought granola bars, right?"
Granola bars are perfect because they fit just right in that.
Everywhere,
pocket,
everywhere. Right? You know, a bag of spits in one side and a coffee and cigarettes.
Oh man, we used to eat spits until the inside of your mouth was just. I wouldn't even eat spits anymore because I had so many cheeks that were just rubbed raw. Like, yeah, that's something.
But yeah, I was shocked to see the treatment from the white collar industry, you know, the pay scale, the pay structure, the bonuses. And I got to say, with, you know, her like dedication and level. And the funny thing too, so my brothers didn't really want to farm, either of them. I don't think. Maybe that's changed.
That's not everybody's cup of tea,
I don't know. But Corey would get off of work and she'd drive home, and I was directional drilling at the time, north of Hudson Hope. So I wasn't even home. My parents were starting to harvest. And so she'd get off from work, drive home, 45 minutes, change into her farm clothes, and go combine.
Yeah.
Till 9 or 10 at night. I mean, I guess that's, you know, somewhat of the perks of a white collar job. You know,
sure it is,
you can be a little bit tired while you're doing this.
You might have.
And I was very grateful for that. I was thinking, like, you know, here I am. I'm out in the bush working. I think I was working like a 50-day hitch at the time or something. Yeah. And here all the work was getting done. That's just an example of. I mean, that's really not something you would expect of a pink jaw. No.
That's crazy. What was the longest hitch you ever did on the rigs?
The longest one I ever did in Canada was 52 days.
Okay. I did 93 one winter. 3 months away from home.
Yeah.
That's probably why I ended up divorced, to be honest. But
when I was in the States, I decided to drive my truck down to Oklahoma, and I stayed there for, I think, 3.5 months, and I worked every day. But that was that year I was out of the country 311 days.
Yeah.
And that was a 95 day stretch in there. But I was single. I was single at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. Not sustainable when you're married with kids, right?
No, absolutely not. Definitely not recommended. But and it was the funny thing too. I had big plans because I had an apartment down there, and I had bought a bunch of stuff. And I thought, okay, I'm going to drive down there. I'm going to bring a bunch of this stuff back, right? Yeah. And as soon as I get on days off, I'm going to Nashville. I'm going to Galveston. I'm going, and then days off came, and they're like, "Can you work over?"
Yeah.
Yeah. What else am I doing, right?
Right.
And then it was right over Christmas. Of course, you're single, so then, yeah, you go home. You got a family.
Sure. Yeah.
So yeah, I just ended up working the whole time. It was great because I went to the golf course and stuff afterward.
Yeah.
It was the coolest experience I ever had. Elk City, Oklahoma. But that would, I don't even really consider that because I had an apartment in town. I was home every night.
Yeah.
Went back to my apartment. So
it's not like here where you're stuck in camp.
You're kilometer 114 on the 2 Lake somewhere.
Exactly.
It's just, you know, brutal. Yeah. I went home to my apartment, and then so when I was working nights, boom, you're home at 7 a.m, get up at 3 p.m, go to the golf course, and come back. I used to run. I ran. That I was in the best shape ever.
Still having a reasonable life, right?
It was incredible. You could have done that. Of course, it was funny too. They promised, 5 years worth of work, 5 years worth of work. So some of us were thinking, well, let's buy a crew house. We worked 13 months, never worked again.
Never work again. Yeah.
Never. We went down 2 years later, grabbed those rigs, and moved them up to North Dakota. That was another project we were going to work forever. Boomtown, Williston, worked, I think. Well, I couldn't even handle it anymore. They put us in a Texas camp. And
that was the same for me when I worked in Valley View. They said, oh, yeah, there's years and years and years of work here. Well, there was, just not for that rig. I bought a house a month later after buying the house. The rig moved, never came back. Never came back.
Yeah, it's that is the sin of the patch. You gotta.
Yeah.
Not very good.
Good thing we love mortgage payments, but
one thing I was happy to see, aside from I think 1 or 2 consultants and the odd geologist, there was I never encountered a female roughneck. Not to say they couldn't do it.
They're out there though.
They are. I heard they exist, but the thing is, then, is not to say they can't do it. I just don't. I mean, I didn't really want to do it. I mean, it was a physically demanding, dirty, unfulfilling job that has to be done. The energy needs to be produced for the good of the planet.
No, that's
right. And as far as I'm concerned, call it what you want. That's a male job. It's a very physically demanding. It's a dirty job. It's a dangerous job. If anybody's going to do it, should be a man.
But we have different reasons. Like men have different reasons for wanting to do jobs like that, right? Like, I mean, we gotta give credit where it's due, right? Like, I mean, you're gonna stay home with the kids. It's hard. Like we got a newborn baby right now, and psychologically, if I had to stay home and be the caregiver all the time, psychologically that would be hard. You listen to a screaming kid for, well, I mean, whatever, attach a number to it and just see how long a man's composure lasts.
Absolutely. That is 100%.
Versus a woman's, right? A woman hears a screaming kid, and what happens? It gets the whole, like, there's an emotional trigger. Endorphins. They start lactating. Like, I mean, it's a natural thing. A man hears that, and
you bite your lip.
Eventually, you wonder. I mean, lions eat their own young, right? And that's why, right? And it's not a good thing, but it's an instinct thing. You can't do it outright. So kids are gonna turn your whole house inside out. They're gonna scream. They're gonna shit all over the place. And I remember, like, my ex-wife, like, she was literally driven completely up the wall, batshit crazy, thinking I was having the time of my life. I swear, like, I worked on the rig, but she thought I worked in fucking Disneyland or something. Like, she just living the dream out there in Fox Creek. No, that wasn't the case, right? I got 85,000 reasons why life wasn't that bad at home, but still, there's different things going on, different stressors, right? And so, at the end of the day, the man's not gonna go out there, pull slips for 12 hours for nothing. Right?
No,
that's not easy. Right? So you get into a mine shaft, you go 300 feet below ground. You don't know if 12 hours are up, if you're ever going to climb out of that mine shaft and see daylight ever again. You climb onto a garbage truck at 4 a.m. and you start picking up garbage all day long. Why do you do that? Why does a person do that?
Yeah, I don't think it's for your own personal growth, right? I mean, there's an undeniable drive and expectation to provide.
There's a certain amount of the man's saying, like, this is what I can do, this is what I can provide for my kids, so that they don't have to do this, right? So it's generally with the men. It's about, I'm doing what I have to do so that my kids have what I don't have. That's the long and short of it. And here's the part where I'm going to sound like a misogynist, but I have never heard a man say, I don't need no woman. I'm going to go get my job myself. I can take care of myself. Right. So there's just different. And I don't even know why women say that. Why does it need to be said?
Yeah, you're looking for,
the man's always, why does a man get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and go to work 12 hours? It's never because he doesn't need a woman. It's because he has a woman, he has kids, and he's got responsibility, and he's got duty, and he understands it, and he's accountable for it. And so there's, again, not good or bad or ugly or any way, shape, or form, but there's just different priorities. So, anyways, women, it's not that women can't or won't do those things. They can trip pipe, they can get in a mine shaft, they can pick garbage, they can do all those things. But men will typically men will endure hardship so that somebody else doesn't have to.
Yeah. And it's funny too, because you got to take solace or whatever it is in the little things. So when you can surround yourself with a group of like-minded men, like a crew on a drilling rig, that small part makes this awful thing just a little bit more bearable. And to me, like, that part was important to I guess effectively keep it as a tight-knit group, a community of like-minded individuals who are doing the same thing. And it made that easier. Those long hitches, nights from home, nights away from your family, missing out on all sorts of things. Fortunately for me, I never really cared about stuff. Yeah. I mean, my 18th birthday, I was already working on a drilling rig. I mean, that's not a rarity, but it didn't. Yeah. I didn't really care. I mean, I had a drink with a friend of mine at the High Tavern, and then I went home. My 21st birthday, I can't actually remember then, because I was already in Oklahoma when I was 20. I couldn't even drink. That was one of the coolest things ever, because there was no taboos grabbing at me. I realized I couldn't drink. I wasn't 21, so
shouldn't matter then, right?
I was just good to go.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it's a man's not getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, driving to the rig, or getting on a garbage truck, or going to the coal mine because he wants to disenfranchise women.
No.
Not because he wants to oppress women, or not because he thinks that women can't. In fact, I think in reality, it's because they think that women are more valuable.
I would strongly agree.
Right. So when something goes bump in the night, or a robber breaks into your house, what's the expectation? You're not going to send your wife to deal with that.
You better get up, and you better get up quick.
You better get up and deal with your business and protect your castle and protect your woman, protect your kids. And that's exactly what's happening on the rig floor, in the mine shaft, on the back bumper of the garbage truck. It's a cultural difference. It's not a gender difference. It's a cultural difference between men and women. And men are, so we're the same species, but we're as different as cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Right. We can both hunt and kill, but we have very different reasons why. So.
Yeah.
Same reason why the Titanic goes down. What happens?
Some of us stand and play the fiddle and slowly sink, and some of us drift off on a lifeboat.
We put the ladies and the women and the children go on the lifeboat. Mm-hmm. Why? It's not because anybody wants to oppress them. It's because they're so goddamn valuable.
It's not for my love of swimming in frigid water.
No, it's not because you want to hang off the side of that door and watch your. If you remember that from the Titanic movie, there was tons of room on that door. Let's be honest. Jack could have survived. Well, Leo DiCaprio doesn't even want to talk about that. But the reality is that the women are far more valuable than men, because they are the lifeblood. They're the future of the generation. Every man that's ever been born is passed through the hips of a woman.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right? So say what you want about it. At the end of the day, if you're oppressing women, it's not a man problem. It's just you're an asshole problem.
So then I wonder, and I mean, I have my own theory on why the drive from the young men has been robbed. But why is it? Like, why is it that the 20-year-old male, with a family or without, most of them seem to lack any drive to get into any blue collar trade? They're content. Is it the nonstop flood of social media and social media options? Is it the feminist movement has actually inadvertently oppressed them to the point where they feel useless, or if they do anything, they're going to offend somebody?
I don't think the feminist movement has oppressed young men. I think the feminist movement has definitely maybe beaten down some of the midlife-aged men, where they maybe hold an older set of values but are too scared to apply them. But I think it's become, amongst young men, it's become popular to be woke, right? To be so aware that you can't accomplish anything.
And you can't function.
You literally can't function, right? And to me, you need to call a spade sometimes. If it looks like a duck and it swims like a duck, it's a duck. And yet here we are, angry at people for assuming their pronouns. And why? And why should that even matter?
Well, I know as you drive around, you see more and more. You see more and more homes on Christmas not decorated. That was typically, when you watch any Hallmark movie, that's typically the man's job to hang the lights. You see more and more hedges untrimmed. You see more and more lawns unmowed. You see more and more driveways. I actually pointed this out this winter. I have never, because when I was little, the road past our house was actually gravel in town. There was no homes on either side. And the grader would come by and he'd wing a windrow in, and right away my mom would go out because my dad was often working. She'd shovel a path to get out of her car and then shovel the driveway. They had a cement driveway. This year I really noticed that nobody shovels their driveway anymore, except for the older people on the street. So when I drive through town.
What motivates people? Is it pride?
Well,
is it pride in a job well done? And if it is, then what initiates that? What creates that? What can you do to develop pride? Is it video games? Like, is that what it is? Is it it's too easy to be entertained? You talk about TikTok, or we've joked about TikTok, but TikTok video is 15 seconds long. And some people can barely stand to watch a 15-second video, and they've got to be scrolling to the next thing because their brains are working beyond their capacity to process information.
Mm-hmm.
They can't stay focused. And I'll be honest, it's really easy to sit there and just scroll through a thing and be like, oh shit, there goes an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, absolutely.
There goes the second one, and have accomplished nothing. It wasn't for lack of pride, but it was a theft of time, right? And maybe that's the conspiracy. Maybe it's just that's how you create apathy, is you just Pleasure Island, so to speak. If you watch Pinocchio, right? Pleasure Island.
Yeah.
Let them drink and smoke and fool around, and pretty soon they don't even care about their family and all their obligations and things like that. Right?
Well, we seem to be descending into that quickly. And I remember talking to an older guy. He was working. I don't know. He was working motors or whatever. And he actually even mentioned it. He said I can't believe that you are interested in I was going to get these Bigfoot footprint sidewalk blocks, for home hardware, make a path and stuff. I just bought my home, my first, like the home we had in Hythe when Corey and I first moved in together. And I was really excited about doing all this. And actually I ended up not doing it. We did something else. But he was shocked because then he had already seen that 20, 23, 25, 26-year-old men, totally, they had no interest in that.
Yeah.
Everything was shifted.
So is the role of a strong male role model, or like why? Like,
why did I care?
No, like why is it they don't care?
I have no idea. I assume it's probably a lack of a strong male role model. I think a lot of the things that have demoralized certainly young family men is low wages and inflation. I really believe that is a big thing. They cannot earn enough to have a decent standard of living anymore. So I had this talk with my accountant. This was a few years ago. He said, well, how would you change it? And I said, all you have to do is bring the price down in town, the price of stuff. So if you're willing to get up at 5 a.m. and be on site by 7 and work 12, 14 hours a day, you are afforded more things. But the person who doesn't want to do it, and it's not for everybody, but the person who doesn't want to do it, who maybe wants to work in town 9 to 5, they still deserve a decent standard of living. And we have seemed to blow right by that. Everything in town is geared for that high earner.
Yeah.
That and I use Grand Prairie as an example because it's where we're from. Everything in Grand Prairie, $100,000. Of course, inflation has really messed things up the last little while, but even before that,
$100K is the benchmark.
Everything is geared. Groceries are geared to high income. Anything remotely pleasure, anything like that, recreation, entertainment, all geared. I mean, we went to a movie the other day. First movie I've been to and ever took our kids. It was over $100.
Yeah.
My kids are 4 and 5. It was over $100.
I don't doubt it. Well, I went to Costco today. I bought 2 bags of cat food, 2 bags of dog food. $200.
Totally nuts.
Right. Just for the privilege of having pets.
And I don't know. I think I seen living wage in Grand Prairie is something like $19.50 an hour or something.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the minimum wage in Alberta is. $15.
15, yeah.
But even that. So say you're lucky enough to get a $22.50, $25 an hour job. Where does that really put you?
Well, I mean, yeah, you look at the service industry in Grand Prairie, having to provide service to well over 100,000 people, because it's not just serving the city, you're serving all the
Mm-hmm.
external population as well. Probably serving closer to 350 to 400,000 people. And there's people that are earning $15 an hour when the median wage is 19.50. That means that a huge population in city Grand Prairie is below the poverty line, way below the poverty line.
Yeah, and in a city whose prices just seem to reflect a $40 an hour wage. You go anywhere and it looks.
Well, yeah, you can't buy a chocolate bar without.
It's amazing,
you know.
So is that a big problem? Demoralizing young men entering the workforce or young men starting families? I mean, I'm a young man starting a family.
To be honest, yeah, true, right? I don't know. What does Fred got to say there? He says, I'm not sure about the current generation, but the way I was raised is the men were always the provider and the protector. I think that was the point that I brought up during our last live stream, is that the priority of the man, not necessarily the priority of the man, but the responsibility of the man is to do two things: to provide and protect. And not because the woman can't, because it's the man's goddamn job.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, it comes back to that. Are you going to sit there and watch somebody struggle with something or you're not? So the woman is absolutely more than welcome to take a role, encouraged to take a role even. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the way the man's brain works, the way his instinct, it's not just ideology, it's not a societal thing, it's instinct, it's built into them from tens of thousands of years, is to provide and protect. And if you cannot do that, I don't care if this gets me canceled off the internet or not. If you can't provide and protect your family, I would hazard to say that you're not doing your job.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, maybe even go as far to say that if you haven't planned this out, that this is going to be the outcome, maybe you should do that before.
Yeah, if your outcome is to be a kept man and not contribute to your relationship, you're not deserving of a relationship.
No.
So we're an hour and 47 in. How's your cigar treating you? We're into the final third now.
We are getting down there.
I find it's actually staying lit again now.
Yours loosened up again.
It's loosened up. I had to ream it out.
There seems to be breaks. It's gotten hot, so
my band
is off.
Too. Yeah.
And I like these. So as I said, like these are like a true Cuban cigar. So like made in Cuba, tobacco and even rolled like. So the other ones we've had, they always come apart. These seem to be really well put together.
Well, yeah, mine hasn't come apart. Mine generally don't come apart.
Mine always do.
I don't know if you just got stronger fingers than me, or
just passionate.
You're just raging on your cigars. And
this is my time to let it out. Take it out on the cigar.
I'd hate to be one of your wrenches. Just bend the damn thing over. Yeah. But no, I found I got to the halfway mark. It tightened right up. Was less than enjoyable. Wouldn't stay lit. Now that we're into the final third, it's staying lit. The flavor profile I found hasn't changed really throughout. It's been very consistent for me.
This is so of all the ones we had, this is one where I've yet to have the urge to even cough. Like I think you could probably smoke this like a cigarette. Like I think you could inhale this.
Yeah.
It is a very mild smoke.
I think you mentioned this at the beginning, the coffee thing. Like this would be a really good cigar to have with a pot of coffee.
It would be, yeah.
You probably wouldn't want to sit there and have one coffee and a 2-hour cigar, but.
Well, I know, like
coffee and Bailey's.
We've been to Cuba a couple times, and yeah, they're huge into their coffee bars, and
so is it.
Maybe this is an excellent pairing for coffee.
I haven't been to Cuba. I've never been there, but what's the ketchup like?
The ketchup.
I've heard that they don't have like normal ketchup. They have to make their own ketchup there because of that. whatever the nonsense with the US.
Like the embargoes and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't say I noticed. The one resort we stayed at had a hot dog stand on the way to the beach, which we ate hot dogs all the time, and I'm pretty sure they had ketchup.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I don't to think of it now. I don't know if it was like it wasn't Heinz packets.
No. I was just curious if it was normal ketchup or it was just like
I'll have to go back.
Tomato paste or something.
No, I think it was fine. I mean, they had actually really good food. I was surprised. We asked the one of the waiters, and he said, "Yeah, actually, a lot of the wheat is from Canada. So, like a lot of the bread."
Okay.
So that was interesting.
We just can't go through the U.S. We go around. I think that's done now, isn't it? Are they friends again now?
I think they were working it out. Of course, that's what like a 40-year.
Yeah,
you don't just throw that out.
They've been feuding for a while. Yeah, I'm sure you can't just be like, oh yeah, no, that was stupid. We're gonna be friends now.
And with what's going on right now, I don't know. They're probably on edge too.
Communist nations on standby, you think, with the U.S. and Russia? I don't think the U.S. is going to do anything. They're pretty much. They're pretty much impotent.
That thing I watched there last night was a little disconcerting. They claim that Putin's going to launch a whatever Satan bomb or something here this month.
Bomb? What the hell is that?
I don't know. I think the Russian translation was Satan 2 or something. These things are like a 16,000 kilometer range. No, this might not be true. This was my TikTok feed, but it seemed pretty legit. The lady seemed to know what she was talking about. I thought, well, that's handy.
It's really concerning, though, is that you can't trust the actual media that we have, the established media.
Oh, I give up completely on it.
And then what people will go to is social media, which some may be true, some may be exaggerated. Not that the regular media is not exaggerated, but. Well, how the hell does a guy sort the wheat from the chaff?
Well, that's a very valid point. I don't know how you do it, and it was funny. So my dad told me today, and another guy that was picking up feed today. I didn't look into this, but there's something now where ground beef in Canada is going to have to be labeled as a hazardous product or something because they don't know what's in the fat. So this apparently this is real. So what they're driving at, I believe, is they're going to make the impressionable people too scared to eat because we've heard it for years, decades now. You can't spray, you can't, and I'll agree with a lot of it. I don't think hormone injections daily for dairy cows is a good thing. No. I don't think ractopamine in pork feed and massive infused rations to process this stuff in a matter of effectively minutes as opposed to the 8 months it would normally take. I really don't think this stuff is good.
No.
But when you start to strike fear into everything on the shelf, well, what's left for people?
Not a whole lot. That's for sure. The whole thing too now with processed food facilities being burnt to the ground, eh? There was a bunch of chicken barns burned down in the States. There was a bunch in the UK. That kind of piqued my interest, so I just do what every normal person would do. Just go to Google, food processing plant fire. Immediately it came up with, this is not a conspiracy. Nobody's doing this. Just create an artificial food shortage or anything like that. I'm like, why is that the first thing that Google pops up?
I didn't ask you.
I didn't ask you that. I'm just curious. Was there actually a fire at a processing plant, and what's the news about that? And it's just immediately like damage control. Well, that makes the guy even more curious, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And we're going on a tangent, of course, now from pink and blue jobs, but that food security piece is pretty critical. I guess to tie that back to pink and blue jobs, like we have 44 chickens out in our tractors right now, and it's gonna be total pink and blue jobs. Division of labor is 100% what it's gonna be. The guys are gonna kill, pluck, and the girls are gonna process.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it works. And it's not because that's the girl. That's not because that's the girl job, and the girls don't like blood, and the girls don't like guts, because they do. They're all over it, but they have smaller hands. They can get in there and do the business. If I put these big mitts inside a chicken, I'd turn that thing inside out.
It's best person for
So
the
it's
job.
best person for the job, right?
And when you start to, you develop your own little community once you've placed in that job, and things are good. Your conversations are reflective of the people involved, and the day goes by.
Are you doing any chickens this year?
Oh my God! I didn't tell you the story. So we're chicken amateurs, you know that. So we had the chicken coop, well, where it was last time you were there, but now we're building a house. Corey doesn't want to look at it, right? Because it's going to face directly that way.
It's pretty like chicken chic though. Like it's a pretty nice chicken house.
Inside it is, but outside it's a white barn or old granary. Right? It's not the best to look at out your front window. So anyway, she said, well, let's just move it up behind the cattle sheds.
Nice to do. Yeah.
So it was a nice day on Sunday. Chickens were all out and everything. We moved them. I didn't realize they were so stupid, or creatures of habit, I guess, that they don't know where it is now.
No, they'll stand there right where the chicken.
They stand right. So we've lost, like, I think she had 28. There's 16 now that we can find.
They're just wandering around the bush.
They won't. They finally, she got like, she was getting 18, 19 eggs a day. Now she's getting like 1 egg a day in the coop, and the rest she's got to find strewn throughout the.
Every day's Easter.
I just, well, you know, I had done that video, my last one, about how dumb the cows were, and part of that was going to be how dumb the chickens were too. It just got to be too long. But I did not know that, and I don't even know, like, if we had locked them in there and then left them in there for a day or two, would they have reset?
They would have, yeah.
And I guess that's what we got to do next time. But no, we're totally gone the other way. From going up with chickens, we're going backwards.
Yeah.
And that was
I should have done a video on how dumb turkeys were too.
You didn't have the best of luck with that, did you? I did.
I don't know if I would call it didn't have the best of luck or didn't have any luck. Because we had 10. Well, the mother-in-law got these 10 turkeys, and she thought, because the heat lamp went out in their chicken house, and she thought they all died. Turns out none of them died. It was just like chicken chicks that died. So we got 10 turkeys that came to here, and because they didn't have room, so we put them in the chicken house here. A couple died right off the get-go, and I was stressing the move. And like 4 died, and I'm pretty sure the 4 died like just from thirst. Like they're so stupid. Like the water bowl's right, it's right there, or like less than a foot away, and they're just like, oh no, I'm just gonna give up. And then okay, well, we're gonna play Highlander. There could be only one. Is that what we're gonna play here? So we moved into the barn, thinking maybe they just need a bit more space. Maybe they need room to stretch their wings. Like, no, that wasn't it. 2 days, boom, all the turkeys gone. Like, well, that was a waste of time and money.
Well,
I told the father-in-law, I said, well, I guess we're going to eat lamb for Christmas supper. Cause...
I was telling my mom about that, and she was kind of chuckling. And I guess my grandma, what they used to do, and the reason behind this is because turkeys are so stupid, but they would put them out with the baby chicks.
Yeah.
And their theory was that turkey would watch the baby chick to learn how to eat and to learn how to live.
But these things were like 4 or 5 pounds when they got here. Like they were not babies. They were not chicks anymore. They were they were adolescents.
They should have known.
Should have got their things together. Maybe we should have brought some chickens with them to help them. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they literally, once they got moved here, they didn't have any kind of like, oh, what do we do? They're like young men, right? What do we do now? Stand here, thumb up your ass, starve to death.
Well, I'd probably say that it was the turkey starter that you used.
Turkey starter.
This wasn't good enough.
Well, this probably wasn't. I probably should have just given grain.
Probably just give them a mix.
But you know what? It's funny because I had all this extra turkey starter, or turkey grower actually, and I tried giving it to the meat chickens, blending it off. It's funny when you go out there, you look at the concentric rings around the feeder where they're at. They'll throw all that turkey starter out and they'll just eat your grain.
There's soy in there though, eh?
They don't like it. They do not like it.
I heard
they'll grab it and they'll be like, ugh.
There was a guy told me, he said 2 worst things you can feed an animal are soy and corn. It's 2 worst things you can put even into a human body, which is totally contradictory to the whole vegan movement.
It's just like putting cattle hair in dog food. You get the protein numbers up, but it's not palatable.
Yeah,
it's not good for them. You can't digest it, but the numbers there. It's the same. Yeah, the soy is not good. Well, yeah, look at any vegan. They're not thriving.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the odd one looks pretty pumped up and jacked up or whatever. I mean,
I think they're sneaking cheeseburgers.
I don't know how
I
that
think they're
works,
having
right?
cheat days.
They got a pound of steak under that soy.
Nobody's living on sunshine and soy.
So, but yeah, no, I heard that they're. I didn't do any. I did also. I heard once too, and I don't know if there's any truth to this. I mean, of course, nobody that's watching this is going to care. But I heard if you actually do feed corn, you have to supplement with something else because it's such a hard thing to break down and digest for an animal. So there's a couple other things they mix in with it.
What's got to be?
Whereas if you just feed, say, like just a mix of grain, okay, your protein might not be there, your vitamin, mineral, or whatever, but that's okay. Things will be all right.
Like corn has to be hard to digest for any animal. I mean, even like humans. Like,
Well, that's exactly
you
it.
eat corn, you chew it up, and then when you shit it out, it comes out whole. Like, how does that happen? Like,
I know, and that's. I kind of wondered that after this guy was telling me. He said, "Yeah, it's a very because there was a big thing with feedlots down south. Couldn't get barley, couldn't get this drought last year, and shipping all this corn. And I think most of the stuff they get is DDGs or anything like spent grain from the ethanol plants and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a ton they have to add to that. Which, I mean, this isn't part of the topic, but I mean, if anything is going to further you into wanting to know where your food comes from and shop local, just do a minute's worth of research as to commercially raised animals and what they're fed.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not.
It doesn't. You don't have to dig too far. There's no rabbit holes with that one. It's right there.
And it is, and it has to be because that's the most practical way to do this, right? I mean, right, wrong, ethically, not ethically, good, bad, whatever. That kind of doesn't matter. You make your own choice, but that's the reality of it. Is that's the way it's done.
We're missing some comments here. So, Tamboror Station says that reminds me. How do you find egg eater chickens? So, if you got a flock of 40 chickens and you're looking in the laying boxes and trying to find your egg eater, you're gonna have almost zero luck.
Just a splash.
So you could segregate the chicken, 1 by 1 or 2 by 2, and go through that whole process. It's gonna take you 30 days to find your egg eater. Sure, I'll have a lot of splash. Not very efficient. So a basket works really good. A basket where you can see through it, you can see all the eggs, and all you got to do is go in there and gather the eggs, and keep your basket right around 12 inches from the floor. Just keep it down there, keep it down for 12 inches from the floor. And the first chicken that comes up, and they'll jump at it. They'll jump like a velociraptor. They'll jump up and they'll try and peck that egg right out of the basket.
Interesting.
That's your perpetrator right there. Slap that chicken across the face.
Is that enough to do it, or does it have to be off?
No,
the head?
no. Like you've got a chicken pot pie. Like you're never gonna slap the egg eater out of that chicken. Like you're not, because there's things you can do in terms of increasing the protein in your feed, so there's less desire for protein. Because that's all it is. It's a nutrient deficiency, right? They're trying to get protein, but ultimately, once they get a taste for it, they're like a dog that gets taste for chickens, right? They're eating your chickens. You're probably not going to get it out of them. So it's easier to just
I got it out of mine.
Make soup.
Very unethically. Although he took a chunk out of my face the other day. So thieves beware.
Your dog did?
Oh, yeah. I thought he was going to have to die.
Yeah. That Pyrenees of mine, we had company over. Big Ben. We had company over, and they had dogs in the truck, which don't come to the farm with dogs.
Why is that? We're going to have to get into this.
Don't-
Why the hell is that a problem with people?
Don't bring your dog. Like, it's like leave your guns at home, Bill. Right? The Johnny Cash song. Anyways, they bring their dog, and the dog is interested, as dogs are, and my dog is like not interested. Like everything that comes on through the gate is.
He's got a job, and he knows his job.
His job is to protect, and that means I'm gonna eat your ass. And he's brought several limbs home from coyotes to prove it. And I can see him going for it. And this dog that's in the truck is it's a Labradoodle, or I don't even know.
Me yapping the whole thing.
No, Labradoodle's a big, full size,
okay.
like a big dog. Like, but it's like that's an expensive sounding dog, and I don't want to pay any vet bills. So I grabbed Ben by the collar, and he just like I don't know, like he does this thing with his neck where he like an owl, right? He just turned his head on a swivel and bit me on the arm, and I was like, "Oh man!" And the wife's like, "You should not do that." I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I shouldn't do that." But I also didn't want to pay $1,500 for surgery for this Labradoodle. But
well, it was an eye opener for me. We just finished seeding, and Actually, my mom, she's probably the only reason why he's still alive. She watched it and she said, that was your fault.
It is, yeah.
So I mean, I went.
It's how you react to the dog. Right?
So I went in the house and she was cleaning the blood off my face, and I was like, "Oh man, I mean, I got 2 little kids. I can't have that." She said, "That was your fault."
That was you, yeah, 100%.
So then I went out, and he wouldn't come nowhere near me.
Yeah.
He just laid in the shade as far away, and it took him probably 5 or 6 hours before he would come back.
Ben's the same way.
And then it was weird. Like, I'm really not, much into this kind of stuff, but I can almost feel that he sensed that there was a lot of tension between the 2 of us.
It's palpable.
Because he'd come and he sniffed around my neck, and then he licked the side of my face where he bit me.
Yeah.
And we're the best of buds again here now. But I thought, geez. And then the strength of that thing. God help whoever shouldn't be on the yard.
Well, I remember when we first got Ben, we got him from, actually, Willowview had an auction. They had a small animal sale. And the Hutterites brought these puppies. And he was tiny. He was only like just this tall, right? Nailed into a crate. And I felt so bad for this little puppy. I was like, I don't know what the number is, what it's going to be, but I can't just leave him to sit there in this crate. Like, I got to buy this dog, right?
Yeah.
I ended up buying him for $140, which is way, way, way less than what he's worth.
Yeah.
And that first night he was here, we lived in the shop. We hadn't built the house yet. And I was concerned that the coyotes were going to come and it was just going to be a gong show. I tried to catch him. I just had him by the collar, and he bit me then. Like, I've never been bit so hard by a dog in my whole life. And this puppy's like 8 weeks old, right? Like, and just like savaged my hand. Like, I was like, oh man, like, I want to need stitches. And so now, like, yeah, if he gets a piece of you now, like, and meant business.
Yeah, it's amazing.
You would be going to surgery. Like,
it's amazing.
You would literally tear you limb from limb. So,
but it was a learning thing. I mean, I told my little boy, because he spends all day with that dog, I said, just make sure if he's eating or whatever, if you're buying him, just don't surprise him.
Fred says he's lost 5 turkeys out of the 30 we started with. Well, it sounds like those are pretty good odds. We put sparkly rocks in the water just so they have something to peck on and learn to drink. And that's the thing. I'd heard that too, and
that's interesting.
I had heard that, but naively I had thought they are mature enough now that they have learned to drink, because they've been there. They've been in the brew. They were full grown. They're all feathered out. 5 pounds. Like, they should know how to drink by this time, but no, they didn't.
It's amazing.
They didn't. I should have put them in with a few chickens. And so if we ever do it again, that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to get them at the same time as the meat chicks.
And put some sparkling water in there.
I'm going to keep 5 meat chicks back, just
to raise the turkeys,
to tutor them, right? So
that's amazing.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do when they hit 10 weeks and the chickens are like going in the freezer. Hopefully they got their shit figured out by then. But
yeah, it's funny. The odd guy has some pretty decent luck with them, and then the next guy is. Of course, this kind of was a weird year. I mean, we lost 2 out of 10 steers, and I mean, I even asked my wife, because I knew nothing about cattle until I still know nothing about cattle.
Yeah.
And as I'm hauling this thing off to the pile, I was saying, like, is what we're doing risky? Like, we're not cow calf people or purebred people, or I bought like 500-pound animals, weaned animals.
Yeah.
How the hell are they dying?
What's going wrong with this
right?
picture?
Like, even my daughter, she's walking to the house. We're not very good farmers.
Right.
And I was like, we're not.
When you lose,
we're not.
10, 15, all of a sudden 20% of your stock. I mean, it has a huge impact, right? But
for me, that was 20.
My in-laws are big cattle people, and I mean, they lost a pile of stock this year too. And even us with the lambs, like, we had a higher than normal mortality rate, and I honestly think it was down to the quality of the hay. You're feeding 2-year-old hay and trying to supplement and try as you might.
Yeah.
You can't force the animal to intake everything, right? So
you gotta pump that molasses. That's what you gotta do.
It's getting hard to pull on here now. It's getting difficult again here now as we're getting the last little bit.
It's getting close to the fingers.
We're at a good time. 209.
209.
Have we solved the world's problems?
think I think we got.
I don't know if we solved them. I don't think we did solve them. I think we just hopefully
I think we rambled a bit there.
we
on it.
engaged some people in some discussion. Hopefully, got some people thinking about it.
That was a tricky one. Like when I messaged you, I was like, what do you got? You know, what do you got?
It's not an easy conversation to have without being without literally either being super controversial or being super appeasing.
Absolutely, that's the meat and potatoes of it. You're gonna go one way or the other with this.
Yeah. There's not a lot of middle ground in that conversation, but ultimately it works. It works on our farm. It appears to work on your farm. You know, fitting the skill to the task.
Yeah.
And pink jobs and blue jobs be damned.
Absolutely, yeah, and regardless of the task, you know, I mean, I had it in here too. Yard work on our farm. No yard work has a color attached to it, and the thing is, everybody enjoys it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's therapeutic.
You know, even my parents when they're out there. I mean, my dad will be 70 in September. My mom's got really bad knees, bad arthritis, but she still likes going to get the eggs. She likes weeding the garden when she can. She can't do a lot of it, but you know, these things all have to be done. And the only way for them, for stuff to be successful, is the jobs have to be done, regardless of who's doing them. And you know, yeah. In closing, it's arguably the most undesirable jobs, the most physical jobs, the most off-putting jobs. I mean, they should. You as a man, you should want those to fall on your shoulders. Now, if they do or not is irrelevant. Yeah. You should want to do those. You just want to make sure that your wife, your kids, your elder parents, whatever, they don't have to do this.
That's right. We should be bearing the hardship. That's just a part of being a man. All right. Well, that thing's gone out. So
that was a perfect 2-hour cigar.
Look at that. 2 hours, 11 minutes, 35 seconds.
But we didn't fire him up till about 20 minutes in. So.
Yeah, it took a while because we get chatting.
So this is a perfect 2-hour cigar, Monte Cristo 2.
Yeah, Fred says, yeah, at the end of the day, we all play our part. Absolutely true. So
for sure.
All right, well, should we let the folks at home go to bed? What time is it? It's got to be 10, 11? Oh, yeah, we'll let you off early. No more 3-hour conversations.
No, absolutely.
No 70 ring gauges tonight. So
spread the word. You know, we're gonna do another draw for another cup here. This Smoking Old Cup. You know, tell. Definitely, we love reading the comments. We love the interaction with people. No, the more, the merrier.
That's what it's all about.
Like, you know, it'd be nice to see a ton of people.
Certainly
twice as many people.
Certainly don't want to take our shirt off on TikTok to get.
I'm going to do it next time, probably.
You will, eh?
Whatever it takes.
Well, I mean, your tie was half off last.
I know. The other time, I kind of looked back and I was just like, "What the hell? I didn't have my button done up, and then the tie got loose, and it looked like a total loser."
Still better dressed than lots of folks. So, all right, let's try and let's see how we do this. Boom, boom. How do we do this? Amateur hour all over again. Good night, folks.